Coach, you got here obviously the first time at the end when they only lost 4 games in the 90s. And, you know, since the late 90s, there's not been a year here where Aggies won all their home games. How do you know, you're coming in and you've been at Oklahoma, which Bob's lost 4. How do you go about getting that home field advantage in your team?
Well, first of all, you increase your talent level. You know, the fans can do only so much, and as a football team, you have to have the right product on the field too. There's no coincidence that you know that a lot of places that have those home winning streaks also have championships. So not a lot of, if you go on those kind of home winning streaks, you don't lose a whole bunch of games on the road. Usually, you got a pretty good team, and the fans will help you even in tough times and make it even more intimidating for your opponent.
Do you feel that's inferred to your players, or you talked about that since you got here? You talked about sort of taking back Kyle Field, or is that just inferred? You feel?
No, I think it's something that we've talked about. I think that you know, there's a catch-22 on that, and if you can't put all your eggs in one basket, what are you going to tell them when you go on the road? So, you know, we want to play to a level. We're trying to establish a standard, home and away, and if that standard is high enough, then you know the 12th man will only hope. If that makes sense. And so you know that's really what we want to do.
Now, Mark Snyder, I mean, a lot of us I didn't know anything about him at all. And then you know, there's other names that defensive players come out. Then you hire him, and I think you know, defense outside the program is one of the most pleasant surprises of the team this year. Can you talk about how you guys crossed paths and what you saw in Mark Snyder that he would deliver this?
No, I would agree with you that going into the season, I would say the defense, and particularly our defensive line, and our specialists, our kickers, were the question. And both have performed admirably up to this point. Mark and I go way back. When I was at Minnesota, he was at Youngstown State actually and recruited South Florida. We both recruited South Florida, got to know each other there. Glenn Mason eventually hired him, and we were on the same staff at Minnesota. He was a DN coach, and now coached the quarterbacks at Minnesota. And then we kind of moved around. I was at Purdue. We both left Minnesota, and he went to Ohio State, and I went to Purdue, and eventually came to A&M. And he was on the national championship team at Ohio State, and was the D coordinator. We stayed in touch the whole time when he was in. And obviously, he was a head coach before I was actually at Marshall. And when we go to those first meetings, he's a guy that, you know, whenever you go to that first meeting as a head coach in Destin or national meetings, you know, you kind of got to figure out somebody that tells you what's going on. And so, and really he gave us one of our worst defeats my first year at Houston. We played Marshall on ESPN, as a matter of fact, and got beat pretty badly by them. But you know, I always thought he was an excellent coach. I had some discussions with him when I was at Houston after they made the change at Marshall, and Skip Holtz snatched him up. Skip had a bigger budget than we had.
Now you got a bigger one.
Then we had a little bigger one, and to be honest with you, you know, I think our whole defensive staff, the guys that we hired, even the guys we brought from Houston, I think people assume that, you know, they just came here. All these guys had other options. Terry Price had just gotten really the Tech, you know, and hadn't been there very long. Had been with Tommy. Brian Polian obviously was at Stanford and could have stayed there or gone to some other places. Matt Wallerstedt was in the middle of actually interviewing at Arizona State to be the defensive coordinator and decided to come here. So our staff had some options. These are good coaches, and they've gelled well together. And Marcel Yates obviously is where he's. So Mark put together a good staff. I think the thing that we did differently is we contacted him, let Mark talk to him, before we hired him. I didn't hire him right off the bat. I wanted Mark to be able to get to know him, interview him, talk to him, and see if they could gel. And I think it's paying dividends right there.
Coach, what about, I mean, obviously Johnny Manziel, the media, the fans are all on Johnny Manziel bandwagon. You've gone through this before as the maturation of Case Keenum. How do you go about that again in a different setting? Everybody wants to talk about Johnny.
Sure.
He's the greatest thing. How do you
well, I think
manage all that?
We do manage it, and I think there's a lot of the quarterback. You heard me say it's like me. You get way too much credit when you win, and you get all the blame when you lose. That's part of the job. It's part of being a quarterback. You know, that I've seen this a number of times, whether it was at Houston, whether it was at Purdue with Drew Brees, whether even, you know, early with Drew Bledsoe at Washington State, who played as a freshman. And so, you know, I know people have kind of been taken aback, you know, by how we've kind of sheltered him from the media early, but there's a lot going on, and all these freshmen will be made available later on this year as a plan and get into the season. We're not going to keep him out the whole year. That's part of his maturation too, and there's a lot of things that he's doing right now to try to get better, and it's hard to stay focused as a young man, and it's hard to break bad habits, or in his case, you know, not necessarily bad habits, but things that you've been very successful in doing. And as I said the other day, I think for a quarterback to get better, the first thing he has to do is understand what his weaknesses are. And you've got to start to develop, try to eliminate as many of your weaknesses as you can, or cut them down, and then utilize your strengths and to become a quick and complete quarterback. And he's working very hard at that. And the hard part of that whole process is it takes experience, because looks change, you know, pressure, and it's hard to simulate game day speed, but also game day, what I call game day consequences, because interception or a fumble or a missed read or anything like that in practice, yeah, the coach will yell at you, but you know, it can cost you a ball game, and the pressure is immense on that. So it's hard to duplicate that, but that you guys get better with pressure. I think he's handled that.
One last thing, it's only been 3 games, but is there anything out there that surprised you about your team? You know, I think maybe you're a little bit different than you've been here before. I think, you know, last couple of coaches after RC, Mike was here, he's been away for a long time. He said there's different things. Maybe he wasn't familiar with it. He's come in here, but you were also at Oklahoma. Has things gone about the way you thought they would?
You know, I don't know. I think, you know, the concerns, like you said, from a personnel standpoint, so far, you know, I think we played very, very hard, and I think we've solved some of the conditioning issues. I think that helps develop some mental toughness and some confidence. I think coming out of the Florida game, I think the other concern going into it was basically the fact that everybody thought we were just going to get pushed around in the Florida game, and I didn't see that at all. I thought that we matched their physical part of the game. I don't think we overwhelmed them. I don't think they overwhelmed us. And I think the thought going into it was that basically we were going to get mauled into that game. It's nothing that I mean, I heard it from different people, and so I think that was. After watching us practice, I wasn't surprised. I think just talking to other coaches and the comments I got was how physical we were, and our team speed seemed pretty good. So, you know, that's where we are. We've just got to continue to get better and even get more depth and some bigger guys in here. And if we do, which we're working hard at in that regard,